The Cold War was a state of a geopolitical tension after World War II between powers in the Eastern Bloc, the Soviet Union and its states, little states, and power in the Western Bloc, the United States, its NATO allies, and others. Historians do not fully agree on the dates, but the common time frame is the period between 1947, the year the Truman Doctrine, a U.S. foreign policy pledge to aid nations threatened by Soviet expansionism, was announced on April 1989. When communists fell in Eastern Europe, or 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed. The term "cold" is used because there was no large-scale fighting directly between the two sides, but they each supported major regional wars known as proxy wars. The Cold War split the temporary wartime alliance against Nazi Germany, leaving the Soviet Union and the United States as two superpowers with profound economic and political differences. The USSR was Marxist-Leninist state led by the Communist Party, which in turn was dominated by a leader with different titles over time, and a small committee called the Politburo. The party controlled the press, the military economy, and main organizations. It also controlled the other states in the Eastern Bloc and founded communist parties around the world, sometimes in competitions with Communist China, particularly following the Sino-Soviet split of the 1960s. In opposition stood the capitalist West, led by the United States, a federal republic with a two-party presidential system. The first world nations of the Eastern Bloc were generally liberal democratic, with a free press and independent organizations, but were economically, politically entwined with a network of banana republics and other authoritarian regimes throughout the Third World, most of which were the Western Bloc former colonies. Some major Cold War front lines, such as Vietnam, Indonesia, and the Congo, were still Western colonies in 1947. A small neutral bloc arose with the non-aligned movement, which sought good relations with both sides. The two superpowers never engaged directly in full-scale armed combat, but they were heavily armed in preparation of a possible all-out nuclear world war. Each side has a nuclear strategy that discourages an attack by the other sides, on the basis that such an attack would lead to the total destruction of the attacker. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction, MAD. Aside from the development of the two sides' nuclear arsenals and the other employment of conventional military forces, the struggle for dominance was impressed via proxy wars around the globe, physiological warfare, massive propaganda campaigns, and far-reaching environments, rivalry at sports events, and technological competitions such as the space race. The first phase of the Cold War began in the first 2 years after the end of the Second World War in 1945. The USSR consolidated its control over the states of the Eastern Bloc, while the United States began a strategy of global containment to challenge Soviet power, extending military and financial aid to the countries of Western Europe, for example, supporting an anti-communist side in the Greek Civil War, and creating the NATO alliance, the Berlin Blockade, 1948-1949, was the first major crisis of the Cold War. With the victory of the communist side in the Chinese Civil War and the outbreak of the Korean War, 1950 and 1953, the conflict expanded. The USSR and the USA competed the influence in Latin America and the decolonizing states of Africa and Asia. The Hungarian Revolution of 1956 was spurred by the Soviets. The expansion and escalation sparked more crises, such as the South Crisis, 1966, the Berlin Crisis of 1961, and the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962.